Good evening. I'm Manali Chakraborty. Welcome to our today's session on behalf of Modak Trainer Academy. Today's topic of discussion is exploring the self in Kaula Tantra. The eminent speaker of this topic is Swastik Banerjee. He is a University Research Fellow in Philosophy at Calcutta University. He is presently undertaking his doctoral studies in philosophy at the University of Calcutta. His research focuses on the problem of self in the Anuttara Trika philosophy of Kashmir with special reference to Khemaraj and exegetical and critical study. He had secured the first rank in MA Philosophy from the University of Madras. Now I request to Swastik Banerjee, sir, please start your deliberation.
I thank Modak Academy for this opportunity. Am I on screen? Yes. I thank
Yes.
Modak Academy for this opportunity, and I personally thank Gargi D, who is a senior of my own teacher, and for giving me this opportunity. Now, the presentation I'm going to do today is on Kaula Tantra.
Sir, sir, start the screen sharing, please.
Hmm, and the presentation I'm going to do is on Kaula Tantra, and this Kaula Tantra. Uh, what I will be doing is I will be deviating a bit from the regular trend of pure academic presentation, and I will also go into the practical aspects of it just to explore how the self is indeed discussed in the Kola Tantric tradition. So let me begin my presentation. So this is the topic exploring the self in Kola Tantra. So let us begin by the first basic question. What is Tantra? The word Tantra, if we think about the word Tantra, whenever we encounter the word Tantra, there are a lot of superstitions and misconceptions involved with it. One of the most basic superstitions that we have in India is Tantra is something that is got to do with magic. And well, there are aspects of magic in Tantra, indeed, but the sort of magic that is centrally in focus of Tantra is known as theurgy. Theurgy is a certain form of occult knowledge that leads to understanding of your nature. It's a word used in Western context, but in Indian context, it's going to be. However, if we take the word Tantra, the general sense of Tantra would be Shastra. So when we discuss about words like uh, Deha Tantra or Ganatantra or anything, it is the Shastra, the body of the knowledge that basically discusses a certain system of knowledge. But in this particular context, Tantra is taken in the sort of occult knowledge or spiritual knowledge that has been passed down by Shiva and Shakti through the Agamic tradition. Here, the etymological definition of the Tantra needs to be understood. First, there are two ways this is understood. First is through the root tan, in the sense of vistar. Now, when a body knowledge leads to your vistara, vistara as an expansion, that is here the expansion of your bodily consciousness to the with the to have an union with the supreme consciousness, or the idea, the knowledge that leads to expansion of your limited awareness, that is destruction of your ego. The other sense is taken as try. Try in the sense of to protect, as in Trana and others. Now, that which protects from ultimate death, as in this body will anyway die, but the fear of our death of ourselves is something that always eats up. So, try is that knowledge that protects you from the ultimate death, that is death, or takes you beyond the idea of death. That is to make you help you attain immortality of a sort, or help you attain the realization of the ultimate. So these are the two senses Tantra can be understood. Now, as I was discussing, the focus over here is Kaula Tantra. The word Kaula comes from the mixture of two words, Kula and Akula. The word Kula means family. Now, this family indicates the family of a Shakti. So, Shakti as in the goddess, one who resides in that family, Kule Vasati iti Kaula. So, from that, the word Kaula normally comes. Therefore, there are these two popular Kaulacharas of Shakta, Srikula and Kalikula. And one who resides in this family and attains siddhi of that family becomes Kaula. Similarly, when we talk about Trika, it comes into that one who resides in the family of this Trika Achara. More for using the word family is because when someone gets initiated into a system of Tantra, it becomes the initiation of a father to son, or the relationship becomes like a family relationship. So things that happen within the family are kept within the family and not moved out. Now there is this other sense of Kaula, which will be elaborated later on. It deals with Kula as in Shakti, Akula as in Shiva. So Kulam Kundalini Shakti. This Kundalini is the primordial Shakti, the very Shakti of Shiva, which is existing in the cosmos, entire universe, but it also rests in our body, as in the Muladhara Chakra as Kundalini. Akulas to Maheshwara. Maheshwara is the existence itself. So it's the Kulas, Kulasya Tattva Jnana Kaula Itya Vidhiyate. So one who knows about this Kula and Akula, so that's because the Shakti that resides in your body and the very nature of very existence that is Maheshwara. So Satta and Bhava. So Shiva and Shakti who knows it together is known as Kola. There is another sense in which it is elaborated. This Kola or is the experience of Shakti Kundalini in its form of expansion. That is the realization that the world is nothing but Shakti and is not separate from Shakti. And Akula is the very nature of the self. So one who is established in the self, but also experiences the external world not as external, but a manifestation of or the revelation of this whole consciousness of Maheshwara's Shakti becomes a Kaula. So the ultimate goal of a Kaula is to attain what is known as Kauliki Siddhi. And this is a word that comes from Paratrishika Vivarana. So the idea of Kauliki Siddhi is Kule Deva Deha Bhava iti Kauliki Siddhi. Now, the major problem when we study a system like Kashmir Shaivism or Trika or any of the tantric systems is when we study the Lakshana of the self as Chaitanya Mahatma, and we often think that the consciousness is just consciousness which is existing in a transcendental realm and also is immanent in this world. But we forget one thing. This is a Shastra that is dealing with sadhana. Now, this form of sadhana in this Shastra is very, very much focused on our body. And this bodily experience of consciousness is what gives us the idea of who I am. That is the limited embodied self. So if we go back to the first slide, the tan vistare iti. So it is the vistara of this limited embodiment, the Kula Deha, to realize the entire cosmos, that is everything that is in the cosmos within one's body. So the similar thing becomes elaborate from like Paratrishika is Puri Abhinavagupta, so it's somewhere in the mid 600 or 700 AD or even before that from Rudrayamala it comes. But Shaktananda Tarangiri, which is a more recent text of Shakta Tantras, gives a similar statement and it goes, Brahmande ye guna santi te tishtanti kalevare. So it goes elaborate, like it includes the lokas, the grahas, nakshatras, and so on and so on. So the idea is to realize yatha tatra tatha anyatra and like that. So whatever is in the macrocosm or the entire cosmos also exists in this body. So when these two realization unites, they attain the Kaulika Siddhi. Now Kaulika Siddhi, what itself comes from Kula. So when one attains Kaulika Siddhi or when one attains the realization of what is in this body is also in this cosmos through the realization of Shivatva, because everything is Shiva, is this. Now, a similar thing is also found in the local tradition. That's why I'm quoting this Lalon Giti, Dube Dek Dekhi Mon, Kirup Lilamoy, Akash Patal Khujish Chare, Ei Dehe Sheroy. So, oh, might dive in, but this like drown in your consciousness to figure out the play of this Shakti, because one you have been seeking in the transcendent and immanent and through the Shastras and everything has already been residing in this body. So understanding this body, how this body works with this conscious, to realize this consciousness becomes the very core of the Kaula understanding of self. So this self, as we have been talking about central, it is a self. In the very first Shiva Sutra, the Lakshana of the self has been given as Atman. So let us, in Indian philosophical discourse, or in one of the central aspects of any discourse comes into the nature of the self. Now, without the self or Atman, which is the very first thing, the very first bare subject, which is present in all our experience and our awareness, yeah, are seen in two major ways. One, Chaitanya is something that is a quality of the Atman, or two, Chaitanya itself is the Atman. Now, in Tantra, Chaitanya is not held to be separate from Atman. And whatever is there or whatever can exist is nothing but Chaitanya. So this Chaitanya, it has been argued that if something is said to be external to Chaitanya, it has to be external to something of what we call as to know or not to know. Because if the pramatri of the object of our knowledge is jada or it is inert, then it will never be revealed in consciousness. Because something needs to be conscious to be revealed within consciousness. And if something is external to consciousness, uh, it cannot be known, it cannot exist, because uh, the whatever exists in consciousness, Chaitanya, is gradually revealed. Now, when we talk about Chaitanya, we must understand this Chaitanya is not our bodily consciousness that they were talking about, or the function of the brain that we are talking about. This Chaitanya itself has been broken down into two parts. The absolute Chaitanya, that is the substratum, the primordial of everything that exists. It's kind of inexplicable. And the Chiti. The Chitti is our mental modes, which is created by our bodily, that is a physical bodily function, and acts as Antakarana. Now, in this mental modes, which is created by our idea of existence, the senses, the mind, and all the things, Antakaranas, it is not, it is in this that the subject, the object, and the process of the knowledge that have, suppose you say you are seeing this video and this video is seen separate from you. But when we talk about Chiti, it is because of the Chiti, this identification with this bodily subject which is separate from the object. It's a sort of imposed subjective separation which makes the object appear separate from it. And this separation brings about the uh, pramata, that is the pramata, or the knower of the entire process, where the consciousness resides, the objective, or the where the objects of the knowledge, anything like what you are hearing, what you are smelling, even the sense of my body, or I am so and so, is also objective knowledge over here. It's not a pure subjective knowledge. And the process of knowing, like connecting the object with the subject, there is a consciousness that is connecting. So this consciousness cuts itself into threefold. By this very activity of our existence, one thing is established, that Chaitanya is not something that is inert or inactive. It has to be active. Therefore, it must have a free will of its own. So Chaitanya is known as have Chetate iti Chaitanya. So Chaitanya itself is marked by that which is conscious of itself. As if we remove all this triad of the pramata, prameya, and pramana, that is the subject, the object of knowledge, and the process of knowing, one thing that remains is a consciousness which is self-aware. Like, even if everything goes away, there is something of a awareness, a bare subjective awareness that remains. So it is that hint that indicates us to the Chaitanya or the existence. So this bare awareness of Chaitanya is defined for the understanding of our own, like for the ease of our understanding, it is taken as Shakti. Now, this bare awareness also comes with a minimal subjective experience. It's a sort of sense of existence of my existence. Like it's not existence of someone other than me. It is me who is existing, or it is this I who is existing, but also not point like you cannot point it at it is me. So this bare existence or this akrityamaham, that I which is not caused by anything, is marked as the Vimarsha Shakti. So the nature of consciousness is thus defined. Chaitanya is Prakasha Vimarshamaya. Prakasha is the Shiva coming from the Kash Dhatu to shed light upon, and Vimarsha is the reflexive nature, that is, it becomes, while shedding light upon itself, it also has to be aware of itself. So therefore, distinguishing it from objects like sun, light, and anything, which sheds light upon, but does not know what it is shedding light upon. So because of this Vimarsha, the consciousness which experience itself as like many things, like because it is knowing itself, it has this swatantra, the absolute independence. Now, from this Vimarsha, it comes that the nature of the Brahman, the Chaitanya, is ultimately Ananda, and Ananda is Rasa. So this Rasa is the Hladini Shakti, the very nature of giving Ananda. Now what happens? This Rasa is the nature that defines this consciousness as a pure form of love. And this is uh, this arch of love, this arch of experiencing itself, it experiences itself as not one but as two. So what is so it becomes Shiva and Shakti, Ananda Bhairava, Ananda Bhairavi. So the Ananda is the nature, the very existence of Ananda, where the entire thing exists is Bhairava, and this Ananda being experienced within itself becomes Ananda Bhairavi. So this conjoining of these two aspects of Bhairava and Bhairavi is the first thing that comes from the Bindu. And this Bindu becomes, it's depicted in the form of a union, is what like becomes the source of the expansion of this consciousness. So from this Bindu, the very idea of expansion to this world, to everything that exists, comes into being. So the consciousness playfully comes down, as in the consciousness which was eternally the same, intentionally like covers itself, because it's like a theatrical play. It covers itself and playfully forgets. It's not that it forgets itself, but it playfully forgets, thus manifesting the multifaceted reality within itself. So this multifaceted reality is the idea of the jiva. So the consciousness has shankocha. So like apohana, like a sculptor, it cuts the stone through itself into many pieces. It makes itself into many, uh, blocking it, like limiting itself to the malas. There is this anava mala, which is the first aspect of limiting itself. And then through this delimitation, it appears itself as many. So what was eternally present becomes limited in space. What was eternally present in time becomes limited in time. What was all powerful becomes limited in its power. What was all knowledge becomes limited in knowledge. Not becomes, it appears. What was all ananda becomes limited in kama, and thus desires the other thing. And therefore the ashta pashas, the eight pashas come into play, which includes your identity, your growth, moha, maya, everything. So these pashas ultimately bind the Shiva, like Shiva itself existing in its own nature as the Anuttara, and also aspect in which playfully it is projecting the existence as limited being. So there is in one hand which is existing liberately, and one hand in which there are limited multifaceted beings. So these multifaceted, multiple beings which are limited in their awareness becomes the uh, Jiva. So Jiva Shiva Shiva Jiva. Sajiva Kevala Shiva. So it is established that there is no difference between the Jiva and the Shiva. Much similar to what Advaita Vedantins would say, that Jiva Brahma Iva Napara. But there is again there is this difference. Even if the Jiva is Shiva, essentially it is Shiva in this world, yet it is like Pasha Baddha. It is bound by the fetters of the existence. And one of the major pashas is the identity, ego. So as long as everything with the identity, like with your identity, with the identity of the self, you start like the small self, that is me, the ego, you start segregating the self from what is known as the other. And from this self and other dichotomy, you start creating more pashas. This includes your ego, the anger, the desire for other, the identity of your class, the uh, pride of knowledge, because you see the other as separate. So everything that binds with your limited self, and you become Jiva. One who cuts through these fetters becomes Shiva. That is Sadashiva Tattva. Uh, now, okay. And so again, I have taken the reference from Pratyabhikya Hridaya. So this Chitti, through its own Shakti, does the Sankocha and does a covering through the malas to become a samsari. So what happens with this is once they have done it, they become a samsarin. So this samsarin is the one who moves around the samsara. That is, uh, moves from one body to another, seeking liberation, not knowing its own nature. So what is happening is they are becoming outward and identified with the body. Therefore, they are thinking that a malas is what will liberate them, and not seeing the Shiva or the essential nature of Shakti. So they see the world even as this object where the Shiva plays, or there is a dualist identity in their eye. So there is the Shakta Padabali which I am quoting just to show that reality that জানো নাকি মনো পরম কারণ শ্যামা মাতা শুধু মেয়ে নয় কভু আপনি মায়ায় আপনি বাধাসে আপনি মহিমা আপনি গায়. So like this is the interesting thing that Shama or the goddess Shama comes from Sham, Sham as in darkness, which attracts everything. And from Sham, the Shakti of Sham becomes Shama. So the very aspect of experiencing everything as oneself is so intoxicating that out of its own greatness, she decides to conceal herself and appear as the Jiva. Now, when the Jiva becomes aware of its own nature, as oh, I am basically Kali or I am basically Shiva, it basically uh, Aponi Muhima Aponi guys. So basically, you are singing your own praise. Like when you are talking about the nature of the consciousness, when you are unaware of yourself, you are basically talking about the nature of the consciousness being separate from yourself, Chaitanya. But when you know that you are that, so like you know that in your own Maya, you have bound yourself. Now you are enjoying that reality and you are talking about that reality while enjoying the fact that it is you who have bound yourself in the Maya. So it entire becomes an act of Leela. So as in it becomes an entertaining play for the liberated being. Because he knows even though I have been appearing to be bound in this world, I am not bound. Now, when this liberated person, Pasha Mukta Sadashiva, it's not necessary that if you are becoming Pasha Mukta, at one go you will become Sadashiva. But this Sadashivatva is indicating the high state that one can achieve while being in this physical body. But one can also achieve states such as just being over here and just knowing this thing, but not displaying power. Because becoming Sadashiva is not only to experience the reality, but also have the ability to manipulate the reality itself. Now, as I was talking, that was the relation between the self and the uh, supreme being. Now, the question comes, what is the relationship between the self and the cosmos? That is our pure existence. In Pratyabhikya Hridayam and also in general tantric texts, it's said that this goddess is the one, this Shakti is the one who reveals this world. Chiti Swatantra Vishwasiddhi Hetu, Swechaya, through her own will, through her own primordial will, that is the very first intention itself, Swabhitta, in her own screen, in her own body, Vishwamunmilayati. She reveals this body, universe. Now, there is a trickery in this. Why I have chosen this picture. Swabhitta Vishwamunmilayati, as in her own self, she reveals the world. She does not reveal the world as something other than itself. Though it may appear to be something other than the consciousness, it is the consciousness itself. So, in a sort, the Shakti is the world, but it appears that it is not the world. So, uh, however, when we talk about it, if we say that the world is absolutely non-real, as if the world is not existing, that would be wrong because the world here is existing but is not separate from Shakti. And in such a manner, as long as you are limited within this body and seeing the world as different, or as even if you are living within this body itself, the physical body, what I'm talking about, is the body that is created by the Shakti in this world. And instead of seeing the body as the only thing that is existing within this, instead of seeing the body as something that is separate from the world, the person who knows this is the body as the part of his whole world. So this whole world, his whole cosmos becomes the Shakti, and the body is something that is playing on that Shakti. So it's Shakti playing on Shakti, expanding on Shakti. So again, this itself goes to another extreme end. So at one point there is the body and this world. At one point there is the body which is not separate from this world, but a part of this world. And then there is this extreme point where everything is Shakti. And even beyond that, the point where because it was revealed in consciousness and it's going to be consumed in consciousness, there is no point of seeing it something that is not Shakti. So there is nothing that actually happens. So sort of Ajatavada. So there is no self, which is independent of the cosmic consciousness. So there is only consciousness itself. No individual consciousness, no world or anything. It's only Shakti. So that's the extreme point that it goes to. However, all these four ways of seeing is present in Kaulachara, and it entirely depends on how a person is pursuing their sadhana, not on the level of sadhana, because I will come back to that later. So once this all three things has been learned and understood, the very idea of Tantra, as I was saying in the very beginning, is not to undergo a theoretical discussion because, as Kularnava Tantra says, and Kularnava Tantra is one of the most central tantric texts in this system, is that there is no point absolutely discussing any of the Shastriya theories because the theories are not going to lead you anywhere, and there is no end to the Shastriya journeys. So you can read the Shastras as much as you want, you can do as much as you study, but if a blind man sees the mirror, it has no effect on him. So does if a deluded person who is deluded by his ego or deluded by the fact in Pasha who has no intention of saying it, she's the Shastra, has nothing. But it is only that who is eligible, who has become a Tattvagyani, who is ready to see the truth, says the Shastra of the Kaulachara, really realizes what is the nature of the self. And thus the sadhana comes into play. And in sadhana, uh, like I have broken it up into three parts. In the Trika Shastras, we see that there are three upayas. Now, Trika is also a Kaula Shastra. In your Talikula, you see the three bhavas taking prominence, Pashupira and Divya. And in Srikula, you see the three forms of puja taking prominence. Para, apara, para, apara, apara. So there are these three forms of puja. So let me go into them one by one. So because it has been created, now the revelation is such that, like for now, let us forget that what has been said before, and let us start from this point where we are existing. That is, we are the individual self bound in pashas. So the idea is to break this anava, that is anu, or the limitations that in our mind to first to small limitations. So you can take the upaya of breath. You are taking the upaya of small puja, small dharanas, and small mantras. Now, mantras will have a very big significance over here. Let's begin with the smaller parts. So, when you are taking the anu means, the small means, it becomes anuvupaya. Now, this anavupaya, what it does is through small practices, say by a certain pranayam, for a moment it shuts down your mind and gives you a glimpse of your nature. Now, you constantly go through the broken glimpse of the natures to ultimately understand the very nature of your existence. Okay. Uh, this Anava, Shakta, and Sambhava are basically yogic upayas, and it does not dictate the bhava. I will come to that. The Shakta upayas is a gateway upaya. It's like you take the in between part. Like Anava upaya was having uh, uh, its thing on the small means mostly on the objective level. Like you grasp it as the object and you realize as an Anava. But in Shakti Upaya, what it happens is you focus on the very Shakti itself. Now, how does Shakti manifest this one? Shakti, from Nityashurashi Karnava, it comes that Shakti manifests itself in the form of matrikas, that is, in the form of Vak, and in the form of mantras, and in the form of this Vak, which breaks itself into the speaker, spoken, and the uh, act of speech. So, all this is pervaded by Shabda. And this Shabdas and this Vak, which is in three different levels, that is our para level, mental level, and the physical level, uh, appears as the object. So it's either your mental work that is working or your physical work that is working or the interaction of between Shaktis of the world that is working. So the Shaktis in this realm of worlds also is broken into four parts. That is the Bhuchari Shaktis, which is existing in the object, the Gochari Shaktis of the senses, the Dikchari Shaktis, sorry, Dikchari Shaktis, and Khechari Shaktis, and ultimately Chit Gaganchari, which exists in all of this. So basically, it's the Shaktis which are interacting. So the Shakti Upaya, what it does is focuses on these Shaktis because when these Shaktis interact, they give a place of the gap or give a place where everything, like for a moment, becomes one with Shiva because Shiva and Shakti is inseparable. So when you become one with Shakti by trying to identify it and trying to focus on the Shaktis, you become one with the Shakti itself, you naturally become Shiva. So it's called Shaivi Mukha. So it's the mouth of Shiva. So when you enter Shakti, you become Shiva. Shambhava Upaya, which is defined by the Sutra of Udyama Bhairava, the direct uprising, it is also known as Ichha Upaya, is well, Shambha Upaya often people would say that it's not to do with Shakti, but there is also Shakti related over here. But it's that Shakti which is direct, it is the Sambhavi Shakti, or it is the Shakti which is revealed in Tantra in Anuttaramraya, or it is the Shakti that is associated with Ichha Shakti. It's the very will, that one Ichha that you have, because previously in the first two, in the Anabhupa, you were taking the help of certain Kriyas. In the Shakta Upayas, you are taking the help of knowledge. But in Sambhava Upaya, you are just seeing the thing. That is, Ichha is more like Pratyaksha Pashyanti. So Pashyanti is where you just try to move your mind into that state and you immediately enter into that state. So the mala becomes so light that you are ready to absorb yourself into that consciousness just by thinking of that consciousness. So not in a very elaborate form as in Shakti Upaya, but just by, like, I might tell you that there is nothing in the body and beyond, and all this is consciousness. You just think about that and you get absorbed with it. So this immediate absolute absorption that happens is a characteristics of Shambhav Upaya. So this defines the three ways of sadhana, and in all three ways you will attain the stage I was talking, like the being fixed in yourself while experiencing the whole thing as one. Now comes the three bhavas. Now in three bhavas, Kaulachara comes only in Divya Bhava. So Pashu Bhava is the first bhava, the bhava from where we start. Now, a Pashu may not be eligible for Sambhavya or may be eligible. Whether or not, it entirely depends on how loose the malas are. So, like you can put Pashubhava Sambhava Upaya, Pashubhava Shakti Upaya, Pashubhava Anubhava Upaya, like that Divya Bhava and all this. So, Pashu is the one who is bound by fetters. Pashavadda iti jiva. So, bound by fetters, he always sees the self and other. Even during Upasana, he or she sees distinction between Shiva, Shakti, Kali, everything. So basically, they have a Ishta Devata and they worship the Ishta Devata as separate from themselves through servitude, through bhakti that is done through pujas, which is physical in nature. And they have to undergo the steps of Parapuja, Parapara Puja, and Apara Puja. Okay. Now, Pashubhava, Anavupaya Sadhaka is the one who will have to go through small exercises, small kriyas within their puja upasana just to understand the meaning of it and think that okay, they will have a taste of the glory, but not the entire glory, but think that the glory is of the God. In Shakta Upaya, they will have the knowledge of the goddess that okay, this is the nature of the goddess and relish that, but not really understand it completely or experience it completely. In Sambhava Upaya, if the person is focusing on the goddess, they will have the rasa anubhuti of the goddess. In Pashu Upaya, that they will enter the bhava and they will be intoxicated in bhakti bhava. But this bhakti bhava is of the form of a Dvaita bhakti, where they will see the goddess is coming, serving him, or something like that. Now comes the Vira bhava. Now, a person when he attends Purna Abhisheka, and there is this Vama Marga of Purna Abhisheka, where they becomes a Vamachari. Now the very now this is a shift from Dakshinachara and Vamachara. There is a very big misunderstanding that like Vamachara is the tamasic bhava and the Dakshinachara is the sattvic bhava. It is utter nonsense. It's not like that. The word tamas over here means the darkness that is beyond creation. Okay. So this tamas is the very darkness that covers your knowledge. One, it covers the knowledge tamas, and another is the knowledge that resides in the great void. So because it is unknown, it is also tamas. So it is entering into this great ghoda avastha of samshana, the cremation ground where everything is being destroyed. So through Virabhava, you first start cutting off the pashas. The word Dakshina literally means the way of creation, the way of the society. While Vama means the way of Vama is the name of the goddess, literally meaning beautiful. So it's the way of the reversal of the society. So withdrawal from the society, but does not mean the achara of the sannyasi. How? Because the fight of the Vira is to exist in the society. Let the pashas try to bind you. The one goddess you have been seeing either as the mother in a separate form, you will see as the consort of oneself, as inseparable form, as your own Shakti. Once you start seeing as the consort or as the mother, even over here, as the one consciousness that's like mother will come back again, but this consort idea, she will play with you and try to bind you. Because what you are doing is you are taking the promise that by any means, I will try to break this pasha. In this Vida Bhava, the use of Pancha Makara comes. And through this Pancha Makaras, the Pratyaksha use of the Pancha Makaras, that is your Madhya, the alcohol, Matsya, the fish, Mamsa, the meat, Mudra, the fried rice, and Maithuna, the sexual practices. Does one really understand the nature of Ananda that resides within this thing? As long as they don't do and they just perform the Pancha Makara Upasana, they basically will remain in the Pashu Achara and ends up doing an elaborate Pashu Achara. The idea of the Pancha Makara, if we go back a few hundred years, like not thinking of the current situation of Bengal, the very things that are associated with the Pancha Makara are controversial in the normal pujas. So when one indulges in the Panchamakara, they basically try to break the fetters that have been binding one. And from Kali to Tara, that is from the Bamachara to China, Mahachinachara, the nature of the Panchamakaras becomes more intense. And through this ritual practice, does one really understand that how it is done. Now, as I was saying, the Panchamakaras are also becoming Panchatatvas. So this is where the Anava Shakta Upaya together comes into play. For a Viracharin, the Anava Upaya will be very, very much into how they're separately observing the Panchamakaras and the Kriyas and the Upasanas that they're doing. Because for the Virachara, Upasana is the main thing. They're remembering that their goddess is the one which is manifesting as everything, but it is an act of remembrance, not a realization. So while remembering this thing, the Anabhupaya plays that you take small means that you are taking alcohol and you are thinking that alcohol is a certain aspect of the goddess. Or you are taking meat and you are imagining the meat as a certain aspect of me. Or you are thinking of Bali and Bali of a particular Pashu, say the goat, as a particular aspect that this is the Bali of the Kama and that is to be done inside me. Or the Ahutis as certain aspect of the Ahutis, that this is a certain aspect of my consciousness which I am sacrificing. So these are the Anavopaya practices often seen in the Manasupachara Puja. So like each and every aspect of the Upachara is internalized one by one. The Shaktu Upaya is the more intense aspect of Virabhava. This is the bhava that you will see in Samshana or other things where you do the upasana in such a manner that you identify your whole bodily being with Shakti and you identify it with such intensity that the intensity will itself break the mala. And one of the greatest example of it is in Shavasana. So when a Savassadhana is done, it is done with the resolution that I will either have the darshan of Devi or if I get up from the Shava, it will end in my death. It does not happen that it ends up in the death, it does is done again and again. But it's the Drira Upaya, which is said in the Shiva Sutras as the Prayatna Sadhaka that comes into play. And the other thing is the Guru Upaya, the other sutra of the Shiva Sutras, which is also aspect of Shakti Upaya, where the Guru, who has been known in Pashubhava as the physical Guru, becomes the internal Guru Tattva. And this Guru Tattva is the one that leads you to the realization of the goddess. So uh, it is said in the Trika Shastras that Guru is basically the Shakti. So Guru Shakti Jayate Eka Madrupa Praveshika, it goes like that. So so the glory is done to the great Guru Shakti, which enters the body and reveals the Parava. So by entering the Shakti, by taking Guru as the Upaya, the path, thus one ultimately realize the nature of the Parasattva of themselves. So Vira Bhava sadhana is the intermediary bhava where the person is struggling to break the fetters. Uh, so in this Spandakadikas, it comes that uh, Agadha Samshayambodhi Samuttarana Tadini Vande Vichitrartha Padam Chitram Tam Guru Padam. So Guru is that tattva that resides in that parava and comes out through the physical Guru, whoever is at that time. Because it's not one Guru, you get many Gurus in one's life, or you may even get one Guru who acts to break these fetters. The Virabhava Sambhava Upaya, here Yogin, will be the most of the intense. It won't be very intense, but it will be more internalized. Like the Virabhava Shakti Upaya will be intense. So the Virabhava Sambhava Upaya practitioner will be practicing the Panchamakara sadhana externally, but they will be focusing more internally to break the fetters which they have known that it is inside and try to keep their mind fixed on that supreme consciousness while doing anything of their life. Now, what happens is it does not remain fixed, it comes down and it goes, it comes down and it goes. So, you are falling in trouble, you will see that this trouble is not different from that. You are enjoying something, you will see the Shakti that is playing within this enjoyment. So, this is the very Sambhava Upaya thing that is being done within the Vira Bhava. And why Vira? Because you are fighting your normal tendency to see it as an object and you are trying to dissolve it within the subject. So when this is perfectly established, one enters into Divya Bhava. Now a Divya Bhava sadhaka becomes a Swechachari. So Trika is coming into Anuvupaya. So Anupaya, that is no Upaya at all. So one who has established himself and has realized the nature. Now the fetters may happen, you may have pain, but it won't bind you. Like a Divya Bhava sadhaka will not fall into depression or say that I will do this and I have to experiment this or that. That is not indicative of a Divya Bhava sadhaka. A Divya Bhava sadhaka may appear as an absolute atheist in the public. because the puja for them need not be done outside. It becomes very, very much inside and everything. And the very nature of the goddess they have worshipped loses their formal nature and becomes the formless absolute, which is manifesting as everything. So, Advaita non dualism is the main aspect of Divya Bhava, and Kaula is the mark of a Divya Bhava sadhana. So, there are two words commonly used in Tantra. One is Kaula, another is Samayachara. Samayachara comes from the union of Shiva Shakti. It comes in Srividya Dakshinachara Paramparas, which does not go into Virachara in the form of your Panchamakara Pratyaksha form, but goes into the subtle forms. And Kaulachara goes into the direct Pratyaksha Makara of the form. The basic difference between the Samayachara yogin and the Divya Kaulachara yogin in Divya Bhava is how they experience this nature of Anuttara. Now, Anuttara nature is Swatantra because it has the freedom to go to that state of absolute and come back to this world through its own will without any bondage. Now, how is this happening? In Kaulachara, it is the movement from Muladhara to Sahasrara and back to Muladhara and again coming up. In Samayachara, it's the other way around. It's from up to down, that is from Sahasrara to Muladhara, and it is drowning it from that and then bringing the entire awareness back to Sahasrara. So, this is the very difference between Kaulachara and Samayachara practice that is seen. And uh, a person who has well established, because as I was saying, it's the bodily thing that they're discussing about, not something other than the body. A person who is like established, so it said that pitwa pitwa puna pitya patita dharani tale, like you drink and drink, keep drinking, get drunk, fall on the ground, rise up and again keep drinking. One who does that does not know, does not have to take another birth. So it's that Sudha, that experience of this bliss, Jagalaranda, which you come, drink and take it up again in the like your entire Chidananda, and then you again bring it down and again bring it up. So you are constantly doing this. And when you become an expert in that, it's like it's constantly happening. You want to talk, you were there, you are going up again, you are coming down here. But this coming down does not really bind you, like a Virabhava Sadhaka would be in bondage. That person becomes a Divya Sadhaka. Now there are three pujas which are performed. Apara puja, that is the physical ritualistic puja. Now, even within this ritualistic puja, all these three aspects of the puja, these three aspects of the upaya resides. So the apara puja is not to be discarded. So apara puja is the physical puja when you are only doing the puja, saying the goddess are separate, through the all the pancha upachara, shodashi upachara, or any upachara, through your entire elaborate rituals. Parapara puja happens when you know the nature of the puja and you are attempting to internalize it. So it's a influence of Shakta Upaya with the normal puja. And para puja is that puja which happens when your existence itself becomes the puja. Now this is established in the last stotra that I have used. It's again from Kulandava. Deho Devalaya. This body is the temple of goddess. And the jiva, the one who is not separate from Sadashiva, being Pashavadda, when you are doing the Bhuta Sutti and everything, the rituals, you identify as the Shiva. The one who knows this reality, that is this body as the temple, this body as the physical body, and this body as the entire cosmic existence, knows this temple. And what happens in this temple is the puja. And this puja is what is happening at Soham Arche. It's the Archana of Soham, that is, it's the Archana of myself. There's another aspect of Soham which comes in Ajapa as it is like the one that is happening regularly, the breath, Ajapa breath, that is, your body is constantly chanting Soham, Hamsa Shiv, Soham, Hamsa Shoham, like that it goes on in the body. So it's the constant awareness of the body that is the japa, that the external world is not separate from consciousness, the internal world is not separate from the consciousness, and this both are the same consciousness. When they unite to become one, you realize that Deho Devalayo Devi, Jivo Deva Samsara. So it's this whole expansive world, which is the expansion of the Sadashiva, that is your own essence, the consciousness, which is spreading out, expanding itself as its Vaibhava, doing all the acts and then again withdrawing itself. So when, and every act, the sound, the smell, the touch, everything becomes an offering. So that is the aspect that becomes Parapuja, and that is what becomes the Kaula Tantra. And here the self is becoming clear. Now, the problem, however easy it may sound, there is a certain problem. So, Advaitam Keti Chitichanti, Dvaitam Ichanti Chapade. So, when someone goes into the journey, uh, the problem is if you read just the Shastras intellectually, huh, first let me address the two forms of Ajnana. There are two forms of Ajnana that has been discussed in Tantra. One is the Purusha Ajnana, which resides in the self. One is the Bodha Ajnana, which resides in the intellect. Now, by reading the Shastra, you might be very brilliant and you might understand what's said in the Shastras, and that might cut a fetter of your intellectual ignorance. But it does not really give you the nature of the reality because you don't have perception of it. So therefore it is said that Advaitam Kechit Ichanti Dvaitam Ichanti Chapade. So some whose intellect says that Advaita is the supreme reality, they will bind itself with Advaita. And for some, they will see that Dvaitam Icchati Chapade. So some who sees that the goddess and the god is separate from the individual, they will see it as that. But the problem is neither of these are absolute truth. So Mama Tattvam, it's the very essence of the self, the very essence of the Shiva Tattva, which they do not know. Na jananti dvaita dvaita it should be vivarjitam. So there is a typing error over here. Huh. So dvaita dvaita vivarjitam. Just a minute. Advaitam kechit ichanti dvaita ichanti tap chapare. Mama tattvam na jananti dvaita dvaita vivarjitam. It's neither dvaita nor dvaita. Basically, you have to let go of your idea of Advaita and Dvaita. Like whatever discussions has been done, this is Kaulachara, this is Samayachara, this is Pashwachara, you have to let go of everything and just dive into this very knowledge of the Kula Kundalini and let it rise. Now, Kundalini has been given three aspects in your Trika Sadhana. One is the Kaulika Kundalini, which we have been talking about. One is the Chit Kundalini, which appears as the Pramana, Prameya, and Pramata. And one is the your Kula Kundalini. So, like all these Kundalinis together, when they rises, it burns up the Prana Kundalini. Sorry, Prana Kundalini. The Prana Kundalini is the breath which rises, and together when it rises, you just let go of all the knowledge that you have had, all the and through the Guru's what has been given to you, dive in, and you rise to understand what is given. Thus, the Deha Sadhana becomes very important over here because it will only happen within the Deha. So this picture of Shiva, who's you see the snake is in the head. So the snake is the indicator of the Kundalini, and he is sitting on the moon, that is the mind, also indicative of the Akya Chakra. Beyond that, and holding a kuthara and a pashu. So it's basically he cuts the pashu and liberates the individual. So what happens is, as long as you don't know it through a proper guru, now this Guru Parampara is also very important. You will be having this Purushagyana. So Diksha is what will take the Purushagyana away. There are major hindrances and delusions. A major hindrance is your intellect. Like what happens is your intellect may not be ready to surrender entirely to the power. And then and the other one is the most common one in sadhana. Yes, you might be a Vida yogin, you might have got all the abhishekas and all the dikshas that is needed, and you will be deluded to believe that you have become a mukta, number one. Number two, like the abhishekas only determine if you get it properly, not improperly by buying off abhishekas or something. Uh, uh, Abhisheka, when it is done properly, your Purusha Ajnana is cut off. And that would determine your Videha Mukti, but not Jivan Mukti. Because Jivan Mukti, when combined with your Purusha Jnana Nyasa, gives you Jivan, Bodha Jnana with Purusha Jnana will together give you Jivan Mukti. Now the thing is, the other delusion is one might study the things, may imagine himself to be a liberated person, and be deluding himself and others that I have become liberated and you realize me. But none of these situations are considered to be liberated in Tantra, but they are quite much of a Mithyacharin as it is said in Gita, but it's also that they are deluding themselves because, but now why does delusion comes? This delusion comes because the very nature of the goddess is to play and conceal itself. Now nature of Nigraha Shakti is so strong that it prevents you from really realizing your own nature. So it is always said that one should constantly try to break the fetters. Whenever you say that I have realized it, you must be sure that you have not realized it. So it comes that Keno Upanishad, when the Guru asked him, have you understand the Brahman? He was like, it's not that I have understood, it's not that I have not understood, because not understanding would mean that you are ignorant. But saying that I have understood and I have become liberated is to only establish that I have become liberated or something does not bind me, is to establish that my ego exists and that ego is liberated and the others are not liberated, I am superior to them. So this ego is the one which is the creator of this all delusion. This ego is the Kritya Mahamta. So the idea of the thing is to cut off this Kritya Mahamta. And that's the surest way of liberation. What is the role of this guru then? The role of this guru, there are many gurus that come. There are 6 types of gurus. Some who gives you sanketa, that this is the indication. Some who gives you knowledge. Some who gives you kriya gyan. Some who gives you yoga gyan and so on. But the most important guru, the one who is considered to be a sadguru, is the one who is established in the parava. Now, the guru who you see in regular phase may not be established, but becomes one with that great shakti, parava, gives the shakti to you and immediately cutting off the fetters that has been binding you for so long. And these fetters are cut off by giving you Purusha Jnana. And it is also given by rising the Kundalini. The Kundalini rise is the path of the sadhana, which once you go through the chakras, going through the different levels of Ananda, each Ananda is the realization of the self in one level or the another. It starts with Nijananda, the experience of the joy in one's own self. And to uh, Paramananda, Pranananda like this, and then one comes into Vishuddhi Chakra, where they reach to the level of Nirananda, and it suffocates. Like it is the point where the ego ultimately dies, and you face the great death, and you remember the Guru. Now, Guru takes you up and like takes you into Brahmananda or Brahmananda and Chidananda. Chidananda is the Ananda that resides in consciousness, and when Chidananda goes above, like you cross the Sahasrara to Dvarashanta, you go beyond Sahasrara, it expands. It expands to give you the knowledge of this whole cosmos as Shakti and unified with that. And that is Jagadananda, the supreme knowledge that exists in consciousness. And this Jagadananda is what gives you the self-realization. So experiencing the Jagadananda, the idea of Muladhara changes from the physical body to the substratum where your self or the Shakti is existing. So this leads you to the, again I'm coming back to Kaulika Siddhi. So one who resides in this Jagadananda or this Anandas within this body that has been realized becomes a Kaulika Siddha. This Kaulika Siddha is the one who really knows the self. Huh? And thus, again, this song becomes very important. ডুবে দেখ দেখি মন কিরূপ লীলা বয় আকাশ পাতাল খুঁজিস যারে এই দেখে সে হয়. And once who has realized, Shemaraja puts it beautifully. Once who has realized the self, when they come, like they do not come out, when they open the eyes, so Prakasha Mane, when this jnana, when this sun has illumined, when this knowledge has illumined, so Paramartha Bhanu is there, so the sun has illumined, Nashyad Avidya Timira. So this Timira, this darkness is created by the ignorances, delusions, and everything that has been there. When it has been cut off, Nashyad Avidya Timire Samaste, Prakashamane Paramatma Bhanu, Nashyad Avidya Timire Samaste, Tada Buddha Nirmala Dushtayopi, Kinchit Napashyate Bhava Prapanchan. So that Buddha, the one who is awakened, Nirmala Drishtayopi, without any mala, because he does not see himself as like the ego itself of I am great or I am so and so does not exist. That I am liberated or the other person is not liberated. Even the state of bodhisattva is transcended because you are not seeking another's liberation. Why? Because kinchit na pashyati, he does not see bhava prapancha. The prapancha is the multiplicity of the world. And this includes the multiplicity of other jivas also. So the entire thing is dissolved. So this is the picture from my production, the Nanda Vilasa, where the Shiva Shakti is united and Ananda is experienced. So he just sees consciousness and consciousness. And when he withdraws within himself, he reaches to something that is nacha buddho, like there is neither any one in bondage, nor anyone seeking liberation, nor anyone liberated, nor a world, not any God, not anything. It's only the reality that it is, and that's the supreme truth. That's what is the self, which expresses itself in two aspects: as one, that is multiplicity of the reality, and one that is absolutely absorbed in something that is inexplicable, ajata. And the realization is the ultimate thing. That is the act of the Kaula Tantra in its own ways. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for wonderful session. Okay. Now, many participants have questions. So one by one, I think we can start now the question answer session. So who would like to ask question first?
I think the questions have been answered regarding Pasha.
Anybody have any question or want to say something?
Joita Sengupta raised a hand. Joita ma'am has raised a
Swastik,
hand.
I was just going through this slide
Ma'am,
on sadhana. When you were talking about the Anava, Shakta, Shambhava as three distinct categories and how you related, that was wonderful. But it's just an observation. Like, I mean, these are all connected. Like, Anava doesn't remain in Anava. I mean, it's a kind of a progression. Like, you talked about the visualization of the matrikas. So, from the Bindu, the matrikas emerge. And from the matrikas, you move on to the Shambhavi Dhava. And Shambhavi can just happen. I mean, it can happen, and you can again go back to Anava. I mean,
yes,
you don't
yes,
have
yes,
any
yes, yes.
constant. So it's totally dependent on the kind of a bhava you are, and these are all connected. That's what I felt.
Yes, actually they are connected, and there are two ways. Like one, someone can progress from Anava to Shakto to Shambhava, or one can also attain liberation through one of these bhavas. That's one of the things. And there is a Sambhava Upaya yogi who can do Anava Upaya, or Anava Upaya yogi who can do Sambhava. So there are three possibilities. So all these things are happening together. It's not that they are three separate upayas.
Yeah, that's what I felt. Yeah, but thank you. It was a wonderful
Thank you,
presentation.
ma'am.
I enjoyed it very much. Very
Thank you,
much.
ma'am.
Okay. Next. Ankit.
Aniket, how can a normal human being awaken his or her Kundalini asthma? I don't think it's important to awaken your Kundalini and do a 9.5 job. That would be a disaster. But one who wants to do that, it's always done under a guru. Or there are many ways the Kundalini awakens. It's not just fixed that you get it through Kundalini awakening or something like that. It is done through reflection. It is done through like normal japa. It is done through many ways. It's not that there's a particular fixed way a Kundalini is done. But in Kaulachara, it's a very fixed way. It is done like a person working in 9.5 job does that. It is also very true. But it's not the kind of corporate 9.5 jobs we have there. In the older times, the 9.5 jobs were 9 to 5 jobs were literally 9 to 5 jobs. It was not like after in the evening or in the morning. So if it's that, they have the time to do their sadhana. Like your mind cannot be into the job 24/7. It has to be like you have to come out and then do it. It's a bit complex to do it if your work makes you be absorbed in the like a corporate hectic life.
Okay. Anup Sharma want to say something?
So thank you so much for this amazing talk. And because a lot of what you said is also embedded in Sanskrit, right? So many things are difficult for me to, really understand in their true meaning, in the way it is basically supposed to be understood. So if possible, could you recommend any book in English where the things that you spoke today can be found? Any book in English?
There are a few books, like there are too many books. One of the most simplest books are done by Professor Devabrata Sen Sharma is The Philosophy of Sadhana. That's one of the simple books. In Trika, there is Swami Lakshman Chu's books on Shiva Sutras, which is also very good. It's very simple. It's all comes from Trika Shastra. Then, if you are going out, other than this, there is this Introduction to Tantra Shastra by John Woodruff. And still, there are many. Not many of them are coming in my mind. Most of them are texts. Kularnav Tantra, if you can have an English book, it's good. There are English books on Kularnav Tantra. And the English one gives a very good exposition. It's very simple also.
Okay. Any more question? Okay.
Sir, if you could just write a few maybe names on the chat, it would be very helpful.
Just one.
Thank you so much.
Any questions you can ask while I type?
Okay, I think question answer session is over. Now, anybody want to say the experience of this session? Anyone? Experience?
Am I allowed to talk?
No. First, rest of the participant. Okay. In my point of view, I want to say something. When Gargi madam first told me this kind of presentation, I was really excited at the time, and today also I enjoyed the session because this kind of thoughts generally in our society, in our culture, it is always avoidable circumstances. Always people don't like to connect with that. Some fear also. But this kind of session is really important for us because it's very helpful for a human being. So I think this awareness is very important. And today also, I really thank you very much for your wonderful design. The presentation design, I like it so much. So it is again really thank you. And also all the participants. Now I would like to invite the director of this session, means special session director, Dr. Gargi De. Please say something.
Just one word I want to tell. That's most enlightening session. Kaula Tantra. It's not so easy to understand, but it's really informative and so nicely, lucidly you presented. That's really appreciated.
Thank you.
Each and every part and each and every details you have presented. So I'm really happy. So, and for a long time, I was just waiting for this session. So, really thankful to you and all of our participants today. So, thank you. And in future also, we will wait for your another session to listen something for you.
I think after this session, many participants now they're interested to learn more about this. Okay, so again in the future, if possible, we'll conduct more sessions.
Why not?
So thank you very much all.
If Swastik has time, so we are ready to arrange.
I'm willing, no problem.
Okay.
Yes.
once again on behalf of Modak Trainer Academy, thank you very much, Mr. Swastik Banerjee, and also all the participants who are joined. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And finally, now we can complete our session. So good night. Shubharatri.
Thank you.